Janine.
Hi, good morning. Oh, I look like I'm staring into space. I'll move you on to my other screen. Hi, I'm Janine Flaherty. I'm the Director of Development and Communications for Vermont Adult Learning. Um, I am not a morning person, so it's always a struggle for me to think of the one thing that I'm grateful for. But I guess I'm grateful for a good night's sleep. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you. Brendan.
Hey everyone, I'm Brendan McCormick. I do business development and outreach for Sonnet Stowe, a detox and 28-day residential treatment facility for substance use disorder. Thanks for inviting me on. I am super grateful to be on this meeting. I'm excited to see what everyone has to say. Thanks for the invite, Melinda, and thanks for everyone for joining.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Brendan.
First time Brendan, nice to meet you.
Yes. Oh, let's stop this. All right. And welcome. So Brendan, welcome for being here for the first time. We're going to celebrate you. I'll eat a cookie on your behalf.
Be prepared to sing your alma mater song at the conclusion of the ceremony.
Interpretive dance too.
Yes.
December. Give your coworkers a hug for me. Okay. We'll move on to Matthew.
Greetings, this is Matthew LaFleur. I use he, him pronouns. I sit on the organization as Vermont Climate Council transition team member to help integrate plain language, not just in that system subset of complex systems, but all systems across Vermont statewide to make sure what we're talking about is understandable for the demographics of Vermont statewide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Michelle.
Oops. Hi, I'm Michelle Bissett from the Abenaki Nation in Missisquoi. I do the domestic sexual violence, and I'm just waiting for my new granddaughter to arrive in probably a couple weeks.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Representative too.
Hey, good morning. My name is Casey Toof. I represent St. Albans City and St. Albans Town. I am also the ranking member on House Education, and I sit on the board at NCSS. So thanks for having me. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Aiden.
Hey, I'm a reporter with the St. Albans Messenger. I'm just here to sit, listen, and see what's up. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Is this your first meeting, Aiden?
Technically, yes. I was at one earlier, but I sort of sat in the back and hated.
So let's get a formal welcome. Thank you. Amy.
Good morning, all. Sorry to be showing up late. I feel like I kind of just showed up and interrupted a great conversation. Are you doing introductions?
We're doing introductions. You came just on time.
Okay. I'm Amy Carmola from United Way of Northwest Vermont, and so glad to be here today.
Something you're grateful for?
I'm grateful that I have both my kids coming home for the holidays next week. I'm in my first year of empty nest and finding that to be an interesting adjustment.
I agree. Thank you, Amy. Kate.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, trying to use a headset. I'm Kate Bluen. I'm the Choices for Care nurse in Franklin, Grand Isle County. So I work for the state of Vermont through Dale. I'm on the board at the local Turning Point, and something I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that it will snow again. I know it will. I love snow. And Melinda, eat a cookie for me, please.
I got you. I've got like 8 people that I'm eating them for, so it's
Okay,
like the
good.
best. Thank you, Kate. Erin?
Hi, folks. My name's Erin Creeley. I'm the District Director for the St. Albans Office of Local Health, which is part of Vermont Department of Health. I use she, her pronouns. I'm grateful that I just got back from a trip to see my 90-year-old grandmother in Washington State. We did a lot of knitting together. We had a really lovely time. The downside of that is I picked something up on my journeys back, so unfortunately I can't join you today, but I think you're all grateful for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. I'll have a cookie for you too. I believe we got everybody on screen. I'm going to pause. Is there anybody that I missed? Okay, so we're gonna come to the room and we'll start with you, Jeff.
Morning, everybody. How you doing? Chad Phelan. I am the chronic disease designee for the Department of Health for Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Beautiful rainy morning. I do love a rainy day though. Hopefully nothing bad happens.
Hi, everybody. I'm Courtney O'Brien. I'm the Quality Improvement Practice Facilitator for the St. Albans Health Service area through the Blueprint for Health, and I'm employed by Northwestern Medical Center. And I'm going to take this opportunity because I'm for all of my team and say that I'm grateful for my team. We had an opportunity to get together and have lunch yesterday, and it just was like a nice reset. So it's nice to do, and thank you.
And we ate healthy.
And we ate, yeah, we did.
That was
kind of a bummer.
You actually had a meal with no French fries?
One French fry. There was one.
Right. Okay, the truth will out.
Just fried with those French fries. All the plates they put it in, it was in my salad. Okay, so Danielle.
I'm Danielle Roberts. I'm the Director of Community Relations at NCSS. Grateful to see such a full room, but I'm also grateful for a new puppy that just joined the family who I got to coordinate. Yeah, so she's doing better with being crate trained and got a good night's sleep. Grateful for that.
Wow.
Jessica Frost at NMC. So I'm the Manager of Population Health. I took over the job from Denise Smith when she left. And I'm grateful just to be back in this world and in this meeting. There's a 3-year break where I was doing a different position at NMC and had been with Rise Vermont before then. So it's just very nice to be back in this room working with all these partners.
Good morning, Nicole Cunningham. I'm the program outreach. It just changed, forgive me. Outreach and engagement specialist with the My Healthy Vermont program. I'm with the Department of Population Health, this amazing team at NMC.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Amy Brewer. I'm the health educator at Northwestern Medical Center. I also coordinate the Franklin Grand Isle Tobacco Prevention Coalition. On top of being grateful for my amazing team and cookies. I am immensely grateful for the opportunity to engage with our policymakers, like that we get to know each other, that we live in a state. I've lived in 5 states, and never is there been a state where you can talk to somebody at when you're getting coffee or at the grocery store or send an email and have that person know who you are. And I don't think I'm that pesky that everybody knows me, but the opportunity to engage with lawmakers is just, it's unmatched, and it's a great privilege.
My name is Kate Gale. I'm the Director of Community Relations for Vermont Foundation of Recovery. And I am thankful for my almost 9-year-old son. He helped make the cookies with me last night. Nice. And I was impressed because he stayed throughout the entire process. That was a big deal for him. So I'm thankful for that.
Good morning, I'm Representative Lisa Hango from Berkshire. I also represent Richford and Franklin and Highgate in Franklin 5. I serve on the Government Operations and Military Affairs Committee. I'm also a co-chair of the National Guard and Veterans Affairs Caucus and the Vermont Rural Caucus. And I'm really grateful for this community partnership group. I think I say that every year, but truly to be able to know everyone who is involved with the public and outreach in this community is amazing. Like Amy said, I can get an email and I know exactly who the person is, who they represent, and hopefully how to go about trying to help. So I'm really grateful for this community. Also, I would be remiss in not saying that I'm very grateful for my little grandchildren who definitely keep me centered when things get hectic like this season right now, leading up to the legislative season. It's really important to have that outlet. So thank you all.
Good morning, Bob Norris, Senator of Franklin County, also the town of Alberg and Grand Isle County. I'm grateful to be able to attend all these meetings, especially after the elections. I'm grateful for family. friends and grateful that I have the ability to, oh, by the way, I sit on Senate Judiciary and Senate Government Operations. No money commitments. I'm grateful to be sitting between two very experienced and knowledgeable representatives that I can constantly turn to for advice when I need it. Thank you for having us.
Hi, I'm Lynn Dickinson. I'm a representative for St. Albans Town. I have been in the legislature for 16 years and I just voted in for my 9th term. I sit currently on appropriations and I'm thankful for all the people who support me and who I learned from. Amy is around a lot.
Okay, so I'm a little pesky.
It's a good state. Just count on Amy at the legislative breakfast. She's the first one you can call and she's always going to say something. She's going to be articulate. It's going to be great. So that's really thankful for when you're trying to run a meeting and everybody sits there kind of looking at each other. But the other thing is I also want to say that I'm thankful for my family, my grandchildren who are all getting older and now doing 900 different activities that we're all trying to find and get to. And
So I'm Deb Brennan. You got 5 more seconds for me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So Deb Brennan, working for First Children's Finance. We are a 2-year-old in Vermont organization, about a 30-year-old organization, but we'll talk more about that when I do the full presentation. We support business sustainability of excellent childcare in Vermont. And I'm a business development specialist, one of 3. We have a very small team in Vermont of 7. I'm really grateful for Act 76 and all that it's done for childcare businesses in Vermont. We've seen now for a couple months in a row more opens than closes, and part of that is due to some of the grant funding that we have available. And we like to think that business and technical assistance is a big part of that. When people are staying in business, they're learning what to do with the money, the increased tuition that they're getting, and how to manage that. And just did a training last night for family and child care providers about separating their finances, their personal and business finances, which is really rich. And yeah, so we're, like I said, coming on 2 years old, so we're getting ready to throw tantrums and, do all the things. But I have some information about some of the grants and things that we have available. I'll leave with you for anybody who's interested that works with child care providers. There's cute little QR codes. I'm not responsible for those, but if you want more information, you can get them there. I also have cards and information if you need that. 50 seconds.
You did wonderful. You could have had longer.
good morning. I'm Kristen Pryor, and I'm the Agency of Human Services Field Services Director for Franklin Grand Island Memorial. And I'm grateful for all of you who serve the most vulnerable Vermonters in the community and take care of them and make sure that they get what they need this really difficult times.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Treya from Northwestern Counseling and Support Services Parent-Child Center. I'm the Family Access Coordinator. And I'm truly grateful for the folks across the state and in our region who work really hard to make sure people's basic needs are met through food. Don and Harry and all the others are working tremendously hard and they really need recognition. Hi, it's my first time at this meeting. Yeah.
I didn't warn her about this.
I love the singing. You just don't want to hear from me, John. To be honest. So I'm here at an invitation from John. I do government and public affairs for the Vermont Food Bank. So I recognize many of our elected officials who are here today, and it's nice to see you all again. And I'm grateful for 2 things. I'm grateful for folks like John and community partners who are doing this work on the ground in towns across the state. It's hugely important year round, but this time of year it feels a little extra important. And then I'm also grateful it's the time of year when there's all sorts of like fun family events and concerts and stuff because I've been really enjoying it. So my daughter and my mother-in-law both staying for it. And that was really fun. You're welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Want to go around the outside edge first?
Like this.
Okay, all right. John Gordon, Sheldon United Methodist Church Food Shelf. And I'm also a lay minister serving my home church in Sheldon and the Methodist Church in Montgomery, Vermont. And I'm thankful actually for 2 things. First off, I'm absolutely thankful that the Medicare open enrollment period is done.
No.
Because for the last 6 weeks, I have been receiving literally as many as 50 phone calls a day from people trying to sell me a Medicare Advantage plan, which I don't need and don't want. But I'm also thankful, over the last few weeks, we have made a connection with MVU. And I now, once a week, I now have students, staff and students from MVU who come and assist us at our food shelf. And it has been just a lot of fun. They've been a great help. It's been a lot of fun. And we're looking to make further connections with the students at MVU.
Thank you.
So that's it. You got a tough act to follow.
I do. My name is Mary Pickner, and I am the substance misuse prevention consultant with the Division of Substance Use Programs at the Vermont Department of Health. Phew. Like, I keep thinking my title gets shorter, but it doesn't. And I am grateful everyone's here. I'm grateful our legislators are here. I'm grateful I do live in a state that I get to see my legislators, not splashed over like, the New York Post. And I am really grateful that I got to spend a lot of time talking to my youngest niece and nephew on all kinds of things. They live in Brooklyn, so they got to tell me what was in their neighborhood from the winter, which was, from the window, which was cool. But I, talking to a 4 and 6 year old with an iPad, I feel like a little nauseous. So, but I'm grateful that I have that opportunity because I don't see them nearly enough. Awesome. And then we'll go to the back corner. We'll start with Deb and go around this. I can relate to that. I was just
I'm Deb Claudia. I'm supervisor for the Care and Service Coordination Team at Agewell. And I'm thankful for grandkids who have their iPads. My 7-year-old called me this morning, which is one of the reasons I was distracted, but he's all over the place. Look at this and look at the snow out the window. Oh, and here's Daddy. And anyway, so I'm thankful for him. And I'm also thankful that because I was running late, this wasn't snow and ice.
Yes.
On the roads this morning. Awesome. Like it only be like 11 minutes late.
Thank you. And a friendly
too, who said, "Are you coming?"
A friendly reminder too for people that are going now, just so people on Zoom can hear you. Feel free to project, and then the rest of us will make sure not to do side talk so they can hear you clearly. I forget about that. You did wonderful. Yes.
Hi, my name is Dean Thayer. I'm a case manager with Agewell in the Franklin Grand Isle area. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to advocate for and have concerns of my clients heard on a larger stage.
First time.
And is this your first meeting?
Timer?
It is.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Laddison. I'm the Director of Communications at NMC. And I would like to say that I'm thankful for Martha's Kitchen. I had an opportunity this week through a partner funding team meeting with the United Way to hear from Brother Bob Bailey. And he mentioned that they were on track to serve 55,000 meals this year. Yes. It's an incredible resource. I'm Jess. I'm the Community Relations Coordinator at NMC. And I'm grateful that the weather has gotten a little bit warmer because my chickens do not like protesting. So hopefully they can get some outside time in the sun.
Thank you. And then we're going to go to our Northwest Access TV cameraman Hunter, who we're so grateful for month after month.
Hunter Barra, I work at Northwest TV and videography, and I'm grateful for the holiday season. I got a lot of friends going back to town for a little bit, so catch up with them.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going to hop back on the Zoom because a few people showed up and I don't want to miss anyone. So for people who joined a little bit later, we're just introducing your name, role, and something you're grateful for. And Harmony, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sorry for being a little late. Hello, I'm Harmony Bourgeois. I am the Executive Director at the Franklin Grand Isle Restorative Justice Center. Something I'm thankful for, I guess I'll say staff. We just celebrated Courtney's 10-year anniversary with the agency, and it's just always nice to all come together and kind of do a little bit of team building and just be together with the whole staff. So
thank you, Harmony. Mr. Walker, welcome, Representative Walker.
Good morning. Is that Melinda?
It is, yes.
Matt Walker. I represent Swanton and Sheldon. I was a little late this morning because we had morning basketball practice at MVU this morning, which is a rarity, but it was trying to keep up with those hockey kids, right? That get up at 4 and 5 to have practice all over the state. And I'm thankful for old friends, as I said last year, people that you get to see once in a great moon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Sadara.
Hi, everyone. I'm feeling a little bit sick today, so I'm going to keep my camera off because I look like a mess. But I am one of the nurse care coordinators at the Notch. My primary location is in St. Albans, and I am grateful for the incredible team that I work with every day and the connections that I get to make with all of you.
Awesome, thank you. I believe I've got everyone. If anybody I missed, speak about. Okay, my name is Melinda White, recovery coach supervisor in the emergency department, and Vermont Blueprint Matt Lee, part of the population health team. I am grateful today for recovery. I celebrate an anniversary in December, so it's always nostalgic to look back, and and so is Mary. Yep. And I don't forget where I came from and how hard it was because of the work that I get to do, which is such an honor. And I'm also grateful for, this is sort of a plug, I apologize, but I'm just going to take advantage of the moment. Grateful for, some people are going to see these letters that I put in front of you, but grateful that there is a good opportunity for people who are seeking a certified recovery residence, women in St. Albans, that it looks like we have an opportunity here. Grateful for Kate Lewin, who's been working on doing this in a slow, thoughtful way for years. And now it's coming to fruition. So there is a meeting tomorrow night. I won't spend too much more time so I don't get the bell for the 40 seconds, but it is in front of people here who are in the room. If you did get one, please let me know so you can get one. And then we can also send it electronically. So super grateful. Again, that's just one example of the many in our community where people pull together because it is a village need. It's not one person or one organization that can help individuals that are struggling with homelessness and or addiction or both. So that's that. So the next order on our agenda is to get a motion for approval of the meeting minutes, which were in the packet that was emailed out. So if there's anybody who had an opportunity to review and feel like they'd like to make a motion, or if there's any edits.
I'll move.
Thank you, Chad. Second?
All second.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passed. Okay, so now we're going to open the floor for discussion with our legislators. And again, thank you so much for coming. This is like, it's not just the cookies that make this meeting like the best one of the year. This and June are really valuable and precious to us. Grateful that you guys take the time to come and meet with us and share, and also for some people to have opportunities to share too. So what I'll do is call on our legislators one by one and have you share just a little bit about what it is that you're doing, how you serve, and then hopefully time permitting, we can open up the floor for some Q&A and more deeper discussion. So I will start on our screen first and go to Representative Walker.
Wow, that's the reward for coming late, is to start and go first. Usually I'm the one that comes in and says, okay, everybody's already hit the 5 big issues for this year, from property taxes with education, public safety. And there's a whole, everybody that had followed an election part, whatnot, is all of those pieces. In the legislature, I serve on the transportation committee. So not all of those big issues will come through our area, but I do understand that microtransit programs are a big issue in this arena. Also, the public transport in terms of the impact on Green Mountain Transit, and they've been very active in the news in their issues and their routes, and the significant drop in ridership since COVID has not come back, and what the pressures are in terms of how we're going to finance that, and what level of help the state's going to provide. And how we also look at programs that have been tested throughout the state to help in organizations that are represented around the table, how to get people to doctor's appointments, how to get them to their mental health appointments, how to get them to treatment. Those are big issues that I know in the House committee, at least in transportation, is something that'll be on the agenda on a significant basis. And there's been a number of pilot programs that I believe people are looking to replicate and use here, and some have already started. So related to this particular meeting, that I think is probably the most active piece that I will be involved in the upcoming session.
Thank you so much, Matt. We'll go to next, so let me change my screen here. To Representative Casey 2.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I sit on House Education. I've been there for 6 years. Our biggest target this year will be to work on the education finance system, how we fund schools. That's going to be a big task. I've already spoken with the speaker, and we're going to be getting together in groups with that. We're going to be working with our House Ways and Means Committee, our Education Committee. We're going to be going right off the bat, working on that. But I think one of the big things that we have to look at this year is that housing is a big issue across the state, not just in our community. Housing solves a lot of the issues that we see as a society. Number one, our property taxes would be lowered if we could grow our grand list. So expanding housing to include more houses that are going to be paying property taxes actually lower property taxes for us. It's also would help with our unhoused population. Housing helps with our workforce development. So it'll get, be able to recruit and retain people to live here and want to grow families here and increase our population. So those two big things. Public safety is another one. But once again, housing can help with some of these issues that we've had around town in St. Albans that we've seen crime increase. So we need to look at that. Another issue is healthcare is going to be a big issue this year. Healthcare costs are rising. Healthcare is something that it's not like a fun thing to talk about on the campaign trail because it doesn't turn too many heads, but we know that the rising cost of schools, the rising cost of healthcare is affecting our day-to-day lives. And this is like we saw, I believe it was a 14% increase last year. It's supposed to go up more this year. Like our schools dealt with a 14% increase in healthcare costs. So we're gonna see that across again. I probably bigger this year because we have a demographic problem in the state. We're getting older and we're not filling in those positions. So I'll quote the governor on this one. In the last 12 years, we've lost 14,000 students. We've gone on 14,000 students. And our population, people over 60 have grown by 56,000 people. So this is a demographic problem that we have to deal with when we're looking at how to solve these issues. We really need to bring younger families in, and we need to retain the students that graduate and keep them here. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we work on that our agencies deal with. Being on the board of NCSS helps me understand some of the things that are going on in our community dealing with substance abuse and mental health issues. So that's kind of where we're at. And I'll answer any questions, but thank you.
Volunteer to become younger.
Thank you. Okay, Representative Gregoire.
Hey there. Like I said, I'm been sick for the last several days, so it depends on where I end up being, but in my committee, we've already discussed we have to do some updates to the child care bill. The details are still being worked out, but we got a bill that's going to go in to fix some little issues with that. Casey and Matt already highlighted a lot of the issues. I think the biggest thing, and I always harp on this, is something that I just think people need to come together on, is we're not solving any problems until people are able to have actual discussions without getting quite belligerent. And I don't just mean the legislature, I mean in public, and the public as well. You have to be able to have conversations and brainstorm activities on all these issues, whether it's healthcare, childcare, education, you name it. We have to be able to throw every solution out there on the wall in a brainstorming activity and then work our way through them. So the biggest thing I work on is trying to get people to be able to have those conversations without, getting very, very tense, let's say, to put it nicely. So that's my biggest thing. But we're in my committee. The big thing we're going to work on is some updates to the child care bill. All right.
Thank you so much. So now we'll move into the room. I believe I got everybody on the Zoom. So we'll move over to Lisa and then just work towards our right.
In addition to what the other representatives have talked about, those are really big issues, particularly like public safety and housing. I'm kind of focusing on the affordability aspect, which is an umbrella over most of the legislation that we're going to be working on this year. I'm working on, in particular, some areas of concern for active and retired National Guardsmen and women, retired military, veterans from all the service branches. And I'm working on a statewide and a national basis because I belong to a task force that brings together legislators from all over the country. So any issues that are really important that are affecting our current or retired military or veterans is important to me. My committee mainly deals with municipal and state administrative issues. One of the things that we see as a big concern, particularly in rural Vermont, is small towns often lack the capacity to do the work that's handed down from the legislature or the federal government that needs to be done. So that's an area of concern for me, particularly with working with the Vermont Rural Caucus as well to try to get support for small towns. Some of the varied bills that I'm working on personally have to do with workforce development, in particular licensure compacts for dietitians, and there are a couple of others that I'll probably sign on to. Career planning, awareness around military options for secondary students who may be trying to find their way in the world, what they want their careers to be. Maybe they don't want to go to college. So that's pretty important to me that students and their families understand all of the options that are available to them. And also, this is kind of a unique bill that I'm working on is raising awareness for athletic trainers in secondary schools. Athletic trainers are trained on whole body systems, meaning physical and mental. So they can be like frontline people in high schools to recognize not only injuries, but mental health issues and other physical conditions. And that's really important, particularly out in our rural areas where people lack access to medical care. Transportation is a huge thing. People taking time off from work to get their kids to see a medical professional. This is a particular passion of mine. So hoping that bill goes somewhere. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, as I said before, Bob Morse. I serve on judiciary and government operations. We get to have two committees in the Senate. In fact, there's only 30 of us versus 150 in the House. They have that, and I had the opportunity to serve in the House also, which is a little bit different, but everyone's jobs are pretty much the same. We deal with basically everything from open union laws, like choice voting, pension issues, moving on to judiciary, raise the age, to a lot of laws governing bills in reference to drug use. One of my areas of concern, it's funny we should mention this, is the recovery residents, which some folks in this room know that I follow as close as I can with their help. We need to address those particular issues. I find it great that for whatever reason, we open up a safe injection site at the cost of $1.5 million, yet we fail to recognize the importance of recovery residents for all individuals throughout the state of Vermont. I think this is a great step forward. I plan on attending this meeting on my way back from Rutland, obviously, so it may be a little late. But yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions that should arise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lynn Dickinson, and I currently serve on appropriations, which deals with all of these issues because it has all of the things that cost money come to our committee. Served on other committees as well. I've served on commerce and institutions and corrections, judiciary, back to commerce, now I'm on appropriations. But, all of the issues everybody's talked about, we've seen the housing, we've seen the education, all of the stuff regarding energy, everything that you can think of. One of the things that has come to my attention more recently, because it came in, they have public hearings for the budgets that come in, and people come and sign up and bring their issues to and a lot of different groups come in for that. But one that came in was the parents of the developmentally disabled and the people who are really severely unable to go and live on their own. We have parents who are aging out. The average age is something like 67 for the parents, and the average age for the child is 27. Just got that in the one that I got from the Developmental Disability Housing Initiative. They came in and asked for money for their needs. A really important piece of housing that we don't really provide a lot for is a couple of pilot programs. But, you know, we were spending, the numbers were just phenomenal when we were talking about the housing issues and what we were spending on housing and motels and hotels. We got used to a lot of money during the ARPA COVID days. I mean, it just came in so fast, nobody knew quite what to do with it. I mean, how do we spend all this money? It's just insane. You know, what projects can we do? How can we make sure that they're worthwhile and they're going to make a difference for people, and people will be able to live and they won't lose their jobs, or will be able to have income if they did lose their job, and where are they going to get the food from? And I mean, there was huge amounts of money spent on things that really were central to people's lives. The healthcare issue, obviously, you know, people who were dying. So the homeless became something that got funded. There were several things that got funded. And a lot of people that got used to that kind of money want to continue those things. I mean, it was true whether it was in schools or whether it was a homeless situation or whether it was, you know, you name it, the school lunch thing that we have now, but we did not have before. We're spending $30 million on free lunch for everybody who goes to free lunch. Not without controversy. But the issue is that all of these things have had to contract, and they're going to contract more. And so we're going to have to live with a different environment and try to go back to the way it was before. And but something like $8 million a week on housing for these homeless people. And there's all kinds of, and again, highly controversial. But these individuals, these young adults primarily that are developmentally disabled, they need one-on-one care. They need a much more intensive care. And there's very little there for them. Their families have been taking care of them for years, and they're panicking about how they're going to continue to go and make sure that when they're gone, that these individuals, they can't go and be homeless. I mean, they don't have the resources or the capacity to do this. So that's something that that I've been involved with, working with some people here in the county. And that's something that is going to be a major issue, I think. They're asking money. They're only asking for $10 million for this, you know, rounding a lot of stuff, but that's what they're asking for, to try to get them started. You know, the other thing, of course, is education. I mean, we talk about students we've lost since 1997, when we actually enacted Act 60. We've lost something like 35,000 students in our schools. Huge. I mean, it was over 115,000. We're now really down around 80,000, and we're losing more every year. It was supposed to flatten out, but it really never did. And so we're spending more and more and more money, 2.3 billion, 2.8 billion. It's doubled while I've been down there. It's gone more than doubled. We've been less than 1 billion. When I first started to serve, it's now, then it went up to 1 billion. Now it's at 2.3 billion, maybe it's 2.8 billion. It's an incredible amount of money. It's like this great sucking sound that's taking all of the resources and bringing it into K-12, which is important. But it's, you know, your judiciary, your corrections, your DCF, your mental health, higher education, public higher education, you name it. They're all living, you know, close to the bone and very, very tenuously with very little money, because all that money is going to education. And it's not that we don't want it. I have worked all of my life to try to support education, you know, school boards. I sit on the board as a legislative trustee for the Vermont State College System. You know, it's really important. And it's a major source of what we do for workforce development, whether it's our CTEs or the colleges, or trying to go and enable these young people, like John was talking about, going to learn about service and working in the community. But this is something that we have to sit down and really look at. How do we go and allocate our resources so everybody has what they need to function, and how can we do it, responsibly? So I take any questions. There's lots of other things that we could talk about. Workforce development and demographics is a really important part. Obviously, our education system is part of that demographic issue. Our health system is part of that demographic. The older we get, the more people get sick. So there's greater volume for our healthcare providers and our hospitals, and the intensity goes up. So that becomes a much more intensive situation. So all the way across the board, we've got a situation we have to really sit down and concentrate on what's our basic function of government? What do we need to provide for? And what maybe we have to sit down and decide. We have to make some decisions.
Thank you so much. So we're gonna open the floor and we'll go by whichever hands pop up first and try to go one at a time. Awesome, you will definitely be first. And we'll go one at a time. And again, a friendly reminder that for the people on Zoom to hear clearly, it's helpful if there isn't any conversations. And let's start with Deb. You were very punctual with that hand.
I was waiting. No, I just, again, Dean and I both work for Age Well. And so we help the elderly and people with disabilities try to stay in their homes and try to get the support that they need. And so you mentioned, yes, Vermont, we have an aging population. We are finding more of our clients that are homeless, 80-year-olds that are in hotels because they have been taxed out of their homes, basically. People that can't afford their real estate taxes anymore. They can't afford to take care of their homes, so their homes are falling apart. You talked about the education system. I'm a former teacher. I'm all about education. But something has to give as far as how we continue to have our taxes raised because of the schools. And I often joke around about what's happening with that marijuana money. Can that fund our education system? I don't know, but I do know that Vermont is one of the top 10 places that are really the worst places to retire, and we need to look at that. I heard earlier that you talked about keeping young people here. Look at why young people aren't staying. Housing, affordability, taxes. Vermont's a beautiful state, but there are reasons why people can't afford to live here. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm hoping you all do. But I think taking a serious look at what we're doing to our elderly is a big deal. Because we work in it every day. We can't get services for people. We'll talk about, Grand Isle, Alberg, those areas, they're really hurting. So that's my spiel is Vermont is we tax, our taxes keep going up. As an individual here, I'm looking at not retiring in Vermont because of that. So I think we need to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
We got
We've got Matthew on the screen and then Michelle is next. So Matthew, you're up.
Greetings, legislative, members and the public, and thank you for the introduction from the person from Age Well. I think she's right. The demographics of Vermont that we need to be considered of. Like I said, I posted, not to go down the rabbit hole. I do think plain language concepts, which I am working with Vermont, statewide, not just in medical, insurance, and education. There's one thing, and legislative, there's one thing that they have all in common. It's technicality and complex, of a system of Vermont. And the legislators on here, I know they're going to sit there and say it's too complicated. Let's uncomplicate this because, this is going to determine, if the demographics are going to vote for you or keep you as their legislators. Remember, senior citizens, veterans, and elderly vote the most. So let's put them, ahead, And, you know, just understand that if I can't understand you and you can't understand me, then there's no question about if we're going to work together or not. And that's a big problem that I'm seeing across Vermont since I work across Vermont, that plain language concepts need to be ingrained, and it is under federal law to have those in place. So I don't know why. The question I'm asking out here is, will you consider using those plain language concepts in your summary tool guidelines so people will understand what you're talking about with this legislative session? Because we're not all Elon Musk of the world, you know, SpaceX of the world, you know. So, and if we can't connect to our residents, then we all lose together. Unfortunately, that's something I got to be truthful about, because if I can't understand you, then what's the point of having this discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. And I'll pause just in case there's a response from our legislator, and then I'll go to Michelle.
I have a couple responses if I can.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So one of the things that I think was brought up there was plain language, and the way we fund our education system is very complex, and I couldn't explain it to this room if you gave me 2 hours to do it. It has to deal with your average daily membership versus your what the cost of your common level of appraisal is. Then we weight our students differently, so that's a really complex system. We need to make it as simple as possible when we retool this so people know what they're voting for on town meeting day. I do not want to see our school system fail. I have an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old that attend SATEC. I went to St. Albans City School. I graduated from BFA. I went to Castleton State College. Our public school system is producing a lot of great individuals. Unfortunately, a lot of them are leaving the state, and we need to figure out a way to keep them here. I mentioned earlier housing was one of them, and building our workforce. I think Franklin County offers a lot for people to stay here. But when we look at how we fund it, and I want to answer that question that I heard earlier about, well, the cannabis money. Cannabis money goes into the general fund. 30% of it goes to, I forget, something else. But it's only around $23 million for the cannabis money. A lot of people always ask me too, like, what about the lottery money? Lottery money is only about $70 million. Our education system raises $2.4 billion. So, which a majority of it comes from our property taxes, our homestead versus and our non-homestead taxes. So, I don't think the problem that we're dealing with has to deal with the money that goes into it. I think it has to deal with the structure of we have a system right now that is it incentivizes high spending districts to spend more every single year, and we need to get that under control, and we need to get it so that people can understand what a vote in March means. So that's going to be part of our goal. We've already talked with people on all sides of the aisle on getting this to be fixed this year, and my goal is to get the property tax increase is expected to be around 5.9%. My goal would be to get it down to 0 for this year and fix the formula going forward. So I think that would help, retain and recruit people to come live here in Vermont. So I hope that answered some of your questions. And I think I just opened up a bunch of other questioning. So sorry if I did that.
Thank you, Casey. So if the questions are on the current discussion, I'll call on them. If they're not, then I want to make sure I'm going in order of hands, but it looks like this is. Yeah, so just a little bit of data since we mentioned the cannabis fund. There's been a little bit of data just came out, and we know that cannabis, when young people are exposed to cannabis, it interferes with learning and memory and mental health. So I just want to make sure that we all understand that for kids, it's not safe. Our YRBS data, our Youth Risk Behavior Survey, between 2021 to 2023 increase. So we have 22% of our young people using cannabis, 30% of our 12th graders using cannabis, right? That's part of the problem. The young adults data that came out yesterday, that's our 18 to 25-year-old. 30 days, have you used in the past 30 days? 48%. It's hard to talk about education if we're not helping our young people to be good learners, right? If their brains aren't set up, if they're not able to retain, if they're high, if they're addicted, if they're agitated in school and not able to sit and focus because of substance, right? So I just want to make sure that we understand the scope of that problem. And that's not a question. Here's the data.
my cookie. That's what I'm gonna do. Yes, thank you, Amy. I feel like I want to cheerlead that. Jessica?
I just had a question about school funding. So I'm on the school board as well. We're very concerned about the budget passing. And one thing that I've just been thinking about, you know, we have quite a few towns with school choice. And we're allowing like public funds to go to private schools, whether it's somebody from Georgia going to Rice or someone in the southern part of the state going to a school in New Hampshire. Like we're sending out public funds to private entities. And would there be a way to rein that in if you have school choice? The public funds are going to public schools. That's just something, I don't know if this has come up before. I'm trying
It
not
has
to
come
hurt
up a
one
lot
of
on
you.
this legislative session.
Yeah.
There was a thing called the Carson decision, which was in Maine, it was settled by the Supreme Court. And they basically said we had to do with religious schools. And so they determined that you could send money, state money to religious schools. That's the issue, for instance, with Rice, but it could be other religious schools. That's a Supreme Court decision, US Supreme Court. And so we have not done that in the past. We have a variety of choices. We have places like Sharon Academy, which is a non-denominational, as far as I know of, it's non-denominational K-8. We have places like Thornburton Academy, St. Johnsbury Academy, BFA was in this category until 2004. We have had independent schools that some of them are more limiting than others. They actually ask for applications. But so we have a variety of independent schools. You can take that money and use it for a private school outside the state if you want to. You can go to Glenville, Mount Hermon, you know, whatever. If you're a tuition town, Act 46 changed a little bit of that because it really made sure that some of the towns that were tuition towns were going to have to line up with a district or with other districts or an SU, like we did here in Maple Run, where you now are obligated to go, you joined, and we did that in Maple Run, the old Franklin Central. St. Albans City, St. Albans Town, Fairfield, and the high school are now all in that, and Fairfield does not have that option anymore. So some towns lost that option. Some towns kept that option. So it's the people who are really pushing for the to not have this choice situation. They don't want people like Burton to remain independent, or St. Johnsbury Academy, Linden Institute, or certainly Sharon Academy. We had a hearing in the House. We had a huge hearing on what we could do about the cost of schools, and we brought in all this huge panel with all kinds of people came, and it was from the education committees and others. And I think they thought the superintendents and the school boards would come in and talk, and that people would discuss things regarding the public schools. 90% of the time was spent with people from Sharon Academy who did not want to change anything. They were the best. They brought in students, they brought in parents, they brought in administrators. I mean, they swamped the entire hearing. So what was intended to happen didn't happen. And that's, that's the kind of thing we can do. Now, my understanding is it's only like 3,500 students that actually participate in these independent schools or that are tuitioned someplace. And 3,500 students is very small compared to the 82,000 or whatever we have in the total population. We probably should be looking at other ways to go. And a lot of these schools are the public schools for their communities. I mean, if you live in St. Johnsbury, you go to St. J Academy, you're in Linden. Now they have boarding students there. And I'm not sure if they can deny admissions. I mean, in BFA, the way it was is we were the most public of all of them. We had made an agreement back in the 20s when we accepted this is our high school. Is the city and town were obligated to go to that high school, and they were obligated to accept all of our students. Now they might have gotten students from 7 other towns, but we had to go there. That was our public high school. That's where our public money went. Now Union High School, it gets its budget voted on along with everything else's. Maple Run, it's a unified budget. But the issue is that it's a small number of people. We ever enacted legislation that said we did not want these people to go to these religious schools. It would likely go to court. It would probably be upheld in the courts that we could do it, and it would cost us money. We probably would lose. The Supreme Court's made the decision nationwide. That's it. And I don't know how many students it involves for just religious students, but all of those 3,500 students is really a very small piece. You've got bigger fish to fry.
Thank you. Okay, Mary on this topic, and then I want to move to Michelle.
So my name's Mary, and so it's use prevention consultant. So two things of the cannabis money, that $3 million goes to substance misuse prevention. But other cannabis dollars, are spent on the Cannabis Control Board and enforcement and all those pieces. I was just reading these stats. Department of Ed grants and after school monies also. And I'm sure there are other things, but those were the big ones that I found. But one of the things that I have to comment on education is I have this thing of like how many students graduate from area high schools that don't actually attend. They go to other schools and are able to walk and receive a local high school diploma, which is a fantastic opportunity. But one of the things when you dig into that is if students are pushed out and they do have that desire for education and end up in other places like Vermont Adult Learning. Those dollars do not follow the student. They just go to the high school on average daily count day, which is October 15th. Plenty of time to push students out. And I would love those dollars to follow the students. The funding for Vermont, places like Vermont Adult Learning are very limited. And I am constantly running into students who want to go back to school, and my current student I'm working with got pushed out in March, and still waiting to get into Vermont
Can you
Adult
say
Learning.
more about pushed out? I'm trying to understand what you mean.
So when we talk about dropped out and pushed out, right? Dropout is when, someone is like, I don't want to go to school anymore, and I need, I'm coming in and I'm signing a piece of paper. But there are a lot of circumstances where students who perhaps have some challenges or some difficulty, or are working to support the family and have a hard time getting to school and are missing classes. And it's the pressure to be, present and there. And if you can't do this, what are we going to do for you? We're constantly trying to help you. And if you can't do that, you can't be here. And so there's a desire to push students that are handfuls out into, I don't know, the world. And they get a delightful letter that is basically says you're useless and, you may be able to come back, but we'll talk about that next year. And until then, you're not allowed on campus. And the current student that I'm working with really was working and trying to go to school and was maintaining a home with utilities and food and just could not manage to show up to school on time. And yet she's a straight A student. And so she has this gap in her stuff, and I would like those dollars to follow, because waiting 9 months till,
For a second try at it?
Yeah, in another area. But yeah.
So yes, thank you, Mary. I believe that money should follow the student, and I know that there has been legislation to that effect, and it's being looked at. There is this whole commission on the future of education right now, which is a really big study. And that's just a small piece of it, but it's a very important piece for education finance. I do want to highlight Franklin Northeast Supervisory Union, which my school board, Northern Mountain Valley, is a part of. We try to keep we, as in the supervisory union, not my particular board, but try to keep all of our students in our district. We've opened a couple of alternatives for students to be able to stay in their community, but yet receive the help that they can't receive in their local public school. And it is, in my opinion, a great success. And it's something for the rest of the state really to look at that model.
Right. She was brilliant online. And here's another little piece. When I think about my kids, for me, it's sort of like a number. I always call Vermont Adult Learning, and then I figure out how many students are graduating. And, in the 6 years that I was keeping, 7 years, I didn't do it this last year, but 7 years, like 30% of the graduating class in my kids' school came from elsewhere. That's a lot. That's a lot of dollars. And
And I think we're not even taking into consideration the average high school student who attends a career and technical education center. That money does not follow that child to that school. And that's
Actually, it does. It does. That's one of the problems with CTEs is that the money follows the child to the CTE center. So there is a reluctance on
stand
schools.
corrected.
Reluctance on schools. Yeah, sorry. to interrupt you.
That's okay.
That's following the money. The money following the child is the basis of the thing we just asked about.
Yes.
And that's the thing you're talking about. And that's one of the problems with CTE centers is that the money does follow the child to the CTE center.
Oh, right.
And then it's disincentive for the high school to encourage or promote or help students go to CTE centers, which is a great workforce development site and an invaluable place for them to get experience. And the same thing with early college or dual enrollment, which is what you go and the money follows the child and they go to, CCD, get a year of college and is still graduating. And that's a year of free college, right? And because it follows the child, that's the argument that these people have about the private independent schools. It's really not just about that. Money follows the child. And that is a problem that needs to be looked at and worked on. Way back when I was on the board of BSA, we had an alternative. It's actually very, very good. It was a downtown somewhere in St. Albans City. Very successful. I don't know if they have it now.
It changed. They have it, but it's very different.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that's going on, and this happened during COVID, kids will work. I know there was testimony or something. A principal came in and he said, that he went to the supermarket and one of the students there was supposed to be online. Well, this kid wasn't online. He was working at Hannaford or something. And he said that he came in and he started talking to the student and asked him while he was checking out, why are you not in school? Why are you here? And it turned out that he was helping support the family because he was working at Hannaford. That was a job that he could get to help the family. And the other problem we have, and this is something that I learned, I don't know how long you've been on the school board, but apparently we have like a 49% trial, not attending truancy, yeah. I don't know what's happened since COVID, but these students just seem to have disappeared, wandered away, and they're just not in school. So it's 49% is like jaw dropping to me.
Yeah, we're gonna move to Michelle next, and then Janine had her hand up next, and then Kate had her hand up next. So just to try to honor the people that have been patient with their hands up.
Hi, I'm Michelle Tria from Northwestern Counseling and Support Services. So thank you all first of all, for what you do. It's a lot. And so thank you for taking that on for the community and for our state. Basically, I just want to also thank all of you for talking about looking at the housing issues and the basic needs issues for families. Just want to make sure that when you're looking at those issues around basic needs, that we also include food. What we're seeing in the region is that more and more people are accessing food shelves that have never had to access resources before because the price of living is so great. And so it's really putting a strain on the volunteers and staff that are trying to support these food shelves. So just pointing that out. So when those bills come across your desk, if you can look at those as well as the area agencies on aging around Meals on Wheels. Because what we're finding here, when I talk to the different case managers at NCSS, and I'm sure they're finding it in the recovery world and all other health aspects, is that when people don't have access to basic needs, then it's really hard. It compounds them working on further skills around getting their mental health, issues under control or worked on, or I'm sure again with recovery. So it really, as one of you, I've already pointed out, it really is a base for everything that all of us in this room are trying to do, is making sure basic needs of people are met. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Michelle. Janine? Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, sure. No, and I can't see the room very well, but I want to thank whoever was bringing up adult education and Vermont adult learning, because that's what I had my hand up for, was with all these conversations about education, to please not overlook the needs of adult learners and the roles that they can play in feeding our economic and workforce development efforts. We recently had, well, first I want to mention that someone asked about, I don't know what happened during the pandemic. We have definitely seen a lot more students coming to us with an increased need for social emotional support and working with community partners to provide wraparound services for that. For those unfamiliar with adult education agencies, we provide services to Vermonters 16 years and older. There's no upper age limit. That said, in St. Albans and Burlington, our student body tends to skew much younger. So we see a lot of those students who are 16 into their early 20s. Something that's been really frustrating for us is that at the end of the summer, the high school completion program was sunset and then replaced with an adult diploma program. Now, my understanding is the adult diploma program could provide more funding so that we can be serving more students, which is a good thing, but it also introduces far more restrictions on that funding than what we had been relying on for many, many years through the high school completion program to cover a lot of our administrative costs. More importantly, though, we were expecting clarity on the ADP back in September, and we still don't have a lot of those details. And so that has been that's had a really negative impact on morale for our staff and students and on enrollment. High schools are reluctant to refer to us like they used to because we can't offer clarity on the pathway to earning a high school diploma. My understanding is there were some documents that were released in November, but they're still not really giving us the level of detail that's needed. And we're still waiting for a draft policy manual for the ADP, which we've been told is in progress, but hasn't yet been shared. So it would be great if the legislators in the room could help advocate for getting the details and clarity expedited. Because, what we're providing feeds what other folks are talking about, right? Like if we're getting these people when they fall through the cracks and we can empower them to pursue their education and career goals, these are people who want to participate in our workforce and who want economic stability. And we talk about, we need to attract more people to Vermont. Sure, but we also need to make sure that the people who are here that want to succeed and that want to be more active members of our communities are supported in doing so. So that's just my little soapbox statement about the importance of supporting adult learners. Because again, when we have them coming in through our adult ed and literacy programs, we can also connect them with our workforce development programs. Right now, our flagship workforce development program is focused on training entry-level weatherization and heat pump technicians, right? And so then that also feeds what someone else was saying about our aging population, and they're stuck in homes that, are starting to fall apart, that they can't upkeep. Our Energy Works program is helping fill those workforce needs, and the secondary impact of that is helping Vermonters stay in their homes for longer and ensuring that those homes are weatherized and more resilient for climate change. So just thinking about, I think adult learners tend to be overlooked a lot, but think about how catching people before when they've fallen through the cracks and supporting them helps feed other things that benefit Vermont.
Thank you so much. Kate, you're next.
I think I just put one plug, I guess, for comment more so in the chat, but I really think honoring and supporting systems that produce the best outcomes are what's most important. So like if it's a better outcome for a child to be challenged in a different situation, I feel like when we look at outcomes, even in healthcare, and outcomes in our kids' success in school, when we start looking at outcomes on what drives funding, I really think there could be a huge shift. So I advocate for healthcare reform to have quality measures that have outcomes, and the money follows better health outcomes, and the same in school systems. And that puts more responsibility on the people that we are expecting to be professionals and do the right thing for the system. So I just want to advocate for that. And I've worked as a nurse for 16 years, and I have worked in aging, mental health, and addiction. That's been all my jobs, and I don't know why, but maybe it's just because I'm here to advocate for. We are in crisis mode. We are beyond crisis mode in all of those categories of services, and I'm really worried about the most recent changes with UVM removing psychiatric beds that will then impact our local emergency room, right? Like there are some serious system issues. So anybody that can advocate for any more funding for psychiatric services, substance use services, and aging services would be greatly appreciated. And especially, and I know Deb Quilliams in the room, she can advocate for the moderate needs more than I can, but I know that's a program that I would refer people to every day if I could. And people are on wait lists for sometimes over half a decade for services that help them stay in their home. And that's just, to me, that just shows how we feel, or how Vermont respects the aging population. And I know I'm going to be there someday, and I don't think people understand the impact that people who are needing services in their home that are aging understand until it happens to them or it's their family member. So anything to help our aging population, and they too can be workforce. They can be volunteers, or they can get employed again. So those are my three categories. I would love to see more funding in any way possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. And on this topic, and then John will be next. Yes.
Okay, so I've got a couple of three things. And I just want to jump into it. Nothing else, just to voice it. So referring to what Kate said about how local services have changed and how we're currently in crisis. So this year alone, Green Mountain Transit has changed their ruling on how they transport clients outside of the county in which they reside. So we have clients that maybe they have a specialist they've worked with for years in Burlington. But if there's one neurologist located in Franklin County, they can't get transportation down to Burlington anymore. Which is another problem, because that neurologist down in Burlington is going to have a lot more contacts that they're closer with than a neurologist up here. So I realized that there was a change because of the finances, the financial picture, the loss of funds, which sort of ties into what Burlington transportation system with all the rides from out of town. So my first issue is with that. How are you going to step in to replace these transportation services, often for clients that are wheelchair bound? So I have a client who's wheelchair bound. She can't use the local transport because the driver won't get out and go into the van. She's not able to manipulate the wheelchair herself. So she's dependent on whether there's a PCA at home with her from a home health agency in order for her to be able to get her cone on and get out. In addition to that, and I guess these are like unnecessary barriers to our elder population. We have a local practice, primary care physician practice that has grown quite a bit in the area, Swan to Albert to St. Albert, who has, I guess, always had a fee for like a medical necessity letter. And I just ran into it after 5 years, just ran into it in March of this year, where I needed a client who had fallen, broken her hip, had a stroke, 3 months of rehab, had a doctor's office visit, discussed that she needed to step. But because she didn't ask for the letter at the time of the visit, I called a week later, she was denied the letter unless she was scheduled to come in for another appointment or pay them $20. So it's either $20 to get your medically necessary items, because I use the ADHD funds. We have a $2,000 pool every year that the clients on the highest choices for care can use. So we have these funds for her, but part of that process is a medical necessity letter from the doctor stating they need this item. This is why, and this is how it's going to help. Now, this client obviously had a false history. Was well aware she had been in rehab for all this period, that she had a stroke. She could give her a friend, but she could not get a letter unless she's scheduled another appointment to go in to see the doctor, which we all know is not going to be just a $20 fee for the letter, but it's going to be another copay or another charge to the insurance company, which sort of like buys into that keep pulling from the insurance, which is already overburdened. I have been in multiple disputes and arguments with this practice to try and get this changed around, and even has gone to jail, but nothing has happened. So I realize that the practices are within their rights to do this, but I'm not approaching it from the perspective of legality as much as morality. You know that this client is in a situation, but physically, just mentioned as well. You know that she's having these issues, and yet we're still sort of like picking out the feedback. Another client is dismissals from the practice. So some practices have, you know what, you missed 3 appointments, you're dismissed from the practice. Working with the elder community, I have a lot of clients that have dementia, Alzheimer's. Again, they can remember an appointment in order to get to it, even if they have a family member to bring them, but you can't depend on the family member if there's family dynamics that prevent that reminder. I don't know what the office's procedure is with providing reminder calls to the client, but I feel that there should be prioritization or exceptions given to those clients that even though have cognitive barriers that are preventing them from meeting these appointments. Now, you can call the date before, you can come to the appointment, either confirm if they remember it, but being able to take on some sort of responsibility other than, sorry, we can't see you anymore. It took me months to get a specific client into St. Albans, into another practice, because I worked with the supervisor at the practice that dismisses the clients to come up with a plan, had a person in place to provide reminders, to schedule the transportation, to accompany the client. Look, I understand she has a history, but here, this is what I'm doing to try and get this in place, and shut down. No, we're not taking her back. No. So this is repetitive. I'm talking about this client or that client, but this $20 fee, which compromises the client's health and safety, is reprehensible.
Thank you. I see a response, and then we'll go to John. And I just want to be mindful of the time because this room is needed too. Otherwise, I would love to stay longer than 10 o'clock. I just want to be mindful of the time. Lisa.
Thank you. I just want to point you and your clients to the Office of the Healthcare Advocate. It's a newly created position in the last year or so. Mike Fisher is the healthcare advocate, and I have his contact information here. Anybody can find them by going to Office of the Healthcare Advocate on a Google search, but if you'd like his information, I'll pass that along to you. These are the exact issues that he and his office try to help with, so I would be happy.
I'm sorry, what's his name?
Mike Fisher, and he works actually for Vermont Legal Aid, but it is a position that was created by the legislature, and I believe it was in 2023 that the position was created. So I would be happy to provide you with his information.
Thank you. John.
All right, I see time is running short. I will totally change gears. In one of the multiple parallel universes that I operate in, those of you know, I am on the board of directors of the Vermont Parent Representation Center. And about a year or so ago, Larry Chris came in and gave a presentation about a study that we had done documenting the need for some reform in the Department of Children and Families. And I want to thank all of you in the legislature, particularly Representative Gregoire, who was, as Health and Human Services, was kind of the lead in that effort. But as a result of some tremendous collaboration for the first time in history between the Department of Children and Families and other advocates for parents and children, we created a bill which was passed in the legislature to reform the child protection system in terms of this idea of substantiation and the operation of this child protection registry. There is more work to be done, and we're also continuing to work with the Department of Children and Families and with the Office of the Defender General, because the issue of representation for parents who are dealing with the Department of Children and Families is a huge issue. And having them properly represented and effectively represented. And I know there's going to be more legislation to be coming. Hopefully it won't be drowned out by the issues that we've been talking about with, funding education and the other issues, the housing issues that you're dealing with. But there will be more legislation forthcoming that was developed in collaboration with the Vermont Parent Representation Center, the Department of Children and Families, and other parent and family advocates. So there's a working group with all of those people that have been continuing to meet to figure out how to create legislation that everybody can agree with. So when we present legislation to the legislature, it's something that everybody agrees is what we need to do. So I'd just like to thank you. And I'd like to thank you all for helping get that bill passed.
Thank you, John. I'm just going to mention, so in the chat, I just put the contact information for Mike Fisher. So that is there. I also want to do a friendly reminder because I have extra copies, but for the meeting tomorrow night on the new, hopefully soon to be certified recovery residents for women in St. Albans area. This is the information on it. So please, anybody who's in the room that hasn't got a copy yet, please get a copy. When we're talking about a crisis of addiction and a crisis of homelessness, I know that I'm a broken record, but these recovery residences address both of those. And also when we look at the public safety, at the statistics with our local police department, when we were getting those statistics, I'm putting my police advisory board hat on now. When we get the statistics, we were learning that some of those repetitive petty crimes that were happening were more so by women than men. And part of what some people have concluded, including myself, is that because there's less services for women than men. We do have, thank you, Vermont Foundation of Recovery, and thank you so much, Candace, for being here. We do have a certified recovery residence for men in St. Albans. We don't have one for women, which is why this is so, in my opinion, critical to make an option for the women that are needing that additional support to both stabilize in the recovery, get off the streets, and then eventually, hopefully, be productive members of our community. So just a huge plug for that. And we've got 3 more minutes in the hand. So
I just wanted to say, especially toward Kate, she mentioned the moderate needs program. And a couple of years ago, that program was cut by like $2 million. And we already had lots of people on the wait list for many, many years. And Kate, you're probably aware that AgeWell is now the hub and spoke. We got the hub and spoke model approved. So all applications, all past and future applications come to AgeWell. And I can tell you, Kate, that Jen Elwood is running that program. We are taking lots of people off that wait list. And I know at this moment I have probably 4 that have been on the wait list, Kate, that are in my queue to assign to case manager. So that is a good thing that did happen, and we are working with legislators to kind of get that funding back. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you everyone so much who showed up, who brought cookies. Thank you especially to our legislators for taking the time to come to it. And a friendly reminder that we will not be meeting in January. So we will not be meeting in January, which I think is a first in the history of this group. And also even this month, meeting the second Wednesday, it was only a one-time deal because it's specific for our legislators. They couldn't make it. And it sounds like that might be a pattern moving forward in the month of December, but otherwise we always meet the first Wednesday of the month from 8:30 to 10:30. For people on Zoom, the networking is 8:30 to 9. So if you don't plan on networking, I would show up about 5 up so you're not sitting quietly for a half hour. And just thanks again for everybody. Travel safe.
Right.
And it was good to see you. Yep.